I've never told anyone this before. Not because I forgot, but because saying it out loud makes it feel real. What happened on Christmas Eve 2019 in my Philadelphia apartment should have been impossible. But I heard it. I saw it. And worst of all, it saw me back. I was 26 that winter, living alone in a converted brownstone in Fishtown. The building had been beautiful once. You could tell from the crown molding and the original hardwood floors. But by the time I moved in, it had that particular kind of decay that landlords call character. My unit was on the second floor, apartment 7B, with windows that faced the street and a radiator that clanked like someone was hitting it with a wrench every hour. Christmas Eve fell on a Tuesday that year. I'd called out of my retail job at the last minute, told them I had the flu, which wasn't entirely a lie. I'd been fighting something for days, that exhausted feeling that comes from too many double shifts and not enough sleep. My plan was simple: order Chinese food, watch bad movies, and ignore the fact that everyone I knew was with family 3 states away. The apartment was cold despite the radiator's best efforts. I'd hung a cheap wreath on my door, the only decoration I'd bothered with, and the pine scent had faded to something chemical and sad. Outside, snow had started falling around 7 p.m., the kind of heavy, wet snow that muffled the usual city sounds. The street was empty. Most of my neighbors had left for the holidays. I remember thinking how quiet everything felt, like the building was holding its breath. By 9 p.m., I was 3 episodes into a holiday baking show, half asleep on my couch under 2 blankets when I heard it. Singing. At first, I thought it was coming from outside, maybe carolers going door to door, though I hadn't seen that in years, not in this neighborhood. The voice was female, clear and sweet, singing Silent Night in perfect pitch. But something about it felt wrong immediately, like a chord that's almost right but slightly out of tune. The singing was too close. I sat up, pulling the blanket tighter around my shoulders. The voice continued, unhurried and calm, moving through the first verse without pause. I waited for it to fade as the singer moved down the street, but it didn't. If anything, it got clearer. Closer. My apartment was small enough that I could see the front door from the couch. I stared at it, watching the space beneath where light from the hallway usually leaked through. The singing continued. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright. I told myself it was coming from the apartment across the hall. Mrs. Chen in 7A sometimes played music loud enough to hear through the walls. But Mrs. Chen had left for her daughter's place in New Jersey 3 days ago. I'd helped her carry her suitcase down the stairs. The singing stopped mid-verse. The silence that followed was worse than the sound. I found myself holding my breath, straining to hear anything. Footsteps, a door closing, the creak of floorboards. Nothing. Just the persistent drip of my kitchen faucet and the distant hum of traffic on Girard Avenue. I laughed at myself, that nervous kind of laugh you do when you're alone and trying to convince yourself you're not scared. It was probably just sound carrying weird through the old building. Maybe someone on the first floor had their window open, and the acoustics made it seem closer than it was. I turned the TV volume up and tried to focus on watching someone fail to make a gingerbread house. 20 minutes later, it started again. This time, the voice was directly outside my door. I know that sounds like an exaggeration, like my mind was playing tricks after being startled earlier. But I'm telling you, I could hear the singing as clearly as if someone was standing in my hallway, maybe 2 feet from my door, facing it. Facing me. Round yon virgin, mother and child. My heart kicked into overdrive, that feeling where you can suddenly hear your pulse in your ears. I stood up slowly, letting the blanket fall to the floor. The logical part of my brain was already working overtime. Maybe it was a neighbor I didn't know about. Maybe someone had moved into one of the empty units and I'd missed it. Maybe they were drunk, confused about which apartment was theirs. But it was Christmas Eve at 9:30 p.m. And that voice, it hadn't wavered once. No breath sounds. No variation in tone. Just that perfect, crystalline singing, like a music box that had learned to project. I crept toward the door, my socked feet silent on the hardwood. The old floors usually announced every step with a groan, but right then they were quiet, as if they were in on whatever was happening. I approached the peephole, my hand already reaching for it, when the singing stopped again. I froze with my eye inches from the peephole. The hallway light, the one that was always on, that flickered but never went out, cast a dim yellow glow visible through the peephole's lens. I could see the door of 7A across from mine. The scuffed burgundy carpet. The smoke detector on the ceiling. No one was there. My breath came out shaky. See? Nothing. Just old building acoustics and my imagination working overtime, because I'd been binge-watching too many horror movies lately. I was being ridiculous. I turned away from the door, heading back to the couch when I heard it. Not singing this time. Humming. The same tune. Silent night, but humming soft in content like someone enjoying a private moment. And it was moving. I could track it by sound, moving from my door down the hallway toward the stairwell at the end of the building. What if I hadn't locked the back door? The thought hit me like cold water. My apartment had a second door that led to the back stairwell, the fire escape route. I always locked it, but had I checked it tonight? Could I remember specifically checking it, or was I just assuming I had? I crossed my apartment in 4 quick strides, nearly tripping over my coffee table. The back door was at the end of a short hallway past my bedroom. The hallway was dark. I never turned that light on unless I was leaving through the back, and suddenly it felt like a mine shaft, like something was waiting at the end of it where the shadows were thickest. The humming had stopped. Everything had stopped. I reached the door, my hand shaking as I grabbed the knob. Locked. The deadbolt was thrown. I checked it twice, then a third time, pulling hard on the door to make sure it was secure. Behind me from the living room, my phone started ringing. I practically ran back to the couch. The phone screen showed unknown caller. I never answered unknown numbers, but my hand was already moving, some desperate part of me hoping it was someone, anyone, breaking this horrible tension. Hello, silence. Not even static. Hello. Who is this? Then through my phone speaker, crystal clear and impossibly close, singing. Silent night, holy night, shepherds quake at the sight. I threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor, but the singing didn't stop. It continued, tinny and distant now, the voice coming from my dropped phone speaker. But there was another sound too. I turned slowly toward my front door. Someone was knocking. Not pounding, not frantic. A polite, measured knock. 3 taps, pause, 3 more taps. The kind of knock you'd do if you were expected, if you were supposed to be let in. The singing on my phone stopped mid-word. The knocking continued. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. Every muscle in my body was locked up. That horrible paralysis that comes when your brain is screaming run, but your legs won't respond. I stared at the door, watching the space beneath it. No shadow of feet. No shift in the light. Just that methodical knocking. My hands were trembling so badly, I could barely pull my phone from my pocket. Wait, no, I'd thrown my phone. Where was my phone? I needed to call 911. I needed to call someone. The knocking stopped. I waited, counting my heartbeats. 10, 20, 30. Then I heard it, and this time there was no mistaking where it was coming from. The voice was inside my apartment. Behind me. In my bedroom. Singing. I don't remember making the decision to move. My body just reacted, some primal survival instinct overriding the paralysis. I grabbed my keys from the hook by the door, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped them. I didn't grab my coat. I didn't grab my phone. I just unlocked the deadbolt, ripped open the door, and ran into the hallway. The hallway was empty. No caroler. No figure in the shadows. Just that ugly burgundy carpet and the flickering overhead light. The singing had stopped the moment I opened my door. I ran down the stairs, taking them two at a time, my shoulders slamming into the wall as I rounded the corner to the first floor. The front door of the building was ahead, that old wooden door with the frosted glass panel, and I could see snow falling outside, thick and white and beautiful, and all I could think was that I needed to get outside where it was open and exposed and there were streetlights. I hit the door running and burst out into the Christmas Eve night. The cold was shocking, the snow already soaking through my socks. I didn't stop. I ran down the front steps and into the middle of the empty street, spinning around to look back at the building. My window, apartment 7B, was dark. I'd left the TV on, I knew I had, but no light flickered from my living room. The window was completely black. And in that window I saw it. A figure, pressed against the glass from inside my apartment, looking down at me. It was too dark to see a face, just a silhouette, but I could see the shape of it. Human, female maybe, from the size and shape of the shoulders. Standing perfectly still, watching me. Then it lifted one hand and waved. A slow, deliberate wave. The kind you'd give to someone you knew. Someone you'd be seeing again. I spent that night at a 24-hour diner on Frankfurt Avenue, nursing coffee until dawn. I went back to my apartment the next morning with two friends, both of them humoring me, clearly thinking I'd had some kind of panic attack or bad reaction to cold medicine. Everything was exactly as I'd left it. TV still on. My phone on the floor where I'd thrown it, screen cracked but functional. Both doors locked from the inside, which my friends were quick to point out. See? No one could have gotten in. I didn't tell them about the wreath on my door. When I'd left, running down the stairs, the wreath had been hanging right side up. Now it was upside down. A perfect inversion, like someone had taken the time to carefully remove it, flip it, and rehang it on the nail. I moved out on December 27th. Broke my lease, lost my deposit, didn't care. The landlord kept asking why. What was wrong with the unit? Had something happened? I told him the radiator was too loud. I live in South Philly now, in a new construction building with security cameras and a doorman. I don't decorate for Christmas anymore. And when I hear carolers, real ones in the street during daylight, I go inside and turn on every light in my apartment. Because sometimes, late at night when the building is quiet, I still hear it. Humming, just for a moment. Just long enough to make me check my doors. Silent night, always silent night. In TA's last shift, the moment he walked in, I knew something was wrong. I couldn't explain it, but my body reacted before my brain did. This happened to me on December 23rd, 2016, during my last night working security at Riverside Mall in Lansing, Michigan. I should mention, I quit the next morning, and I've never set foot in that mall again. I was 29, working overnight security at a dying mall in mid-Michigan. Riverside had been busy once, back in the 90s. It was the place to shop. But by 2016, it was a corpse still going through the motions. Half the storefronts were empty. The ones that remained were mostly phone case kiosks and vitamin shops that never seemed to have customers. During Christmas season, they brought in extra decorations to hide the decay. Garlands wrapped around empty storefronts. A massive tree in the center court that was more brown than green. And Santa's workshop, an elaborate setup near the south entrance with fake snow, animatronic elves, and a velvet throne where a rotating cast of mall Santas would sit for photos during business hours. My shift started at 11 p.m. and ended at 7 a.m. I was the only security guard on duty. Budget cuts meant they'd stopped scheduling pairs years ago. My job was simple: walk the interior perimeter every hour, check that all the entrances were locked, and make sure no one was sleeping in the bathrooms or trying to break into the jewelry store. The mall, after closing, was a specific kind of eerie. The overhead lights were set to half power, creating these long shadows between the storefronts. The fountain in the center court still ran, the sound of trickling water echoing through the empty corridors. And there was always music playing through the PA system, a loop of instrumental Christmas songs that repeated every 4 hours. I'd memorized the order by my second week. That night, December 23rd, I'd started my shift like always. Walked my first perimeter at 11:30 p.m. Everything was secure. The mall was empty except for me, the mechanical hum of the HVAC system, and that endless loop of silver bells and Jingle Bell Rock. I returned to my station at the security office near the north entrance, settled into my chair with my thermos of coffee, and pulled up the security camera feeds on the monitor array. That's when I saw him. On camera 3, the feed that covered the center court and Santa's workshop, there was someone sitting in Santa's throne. I leaned forward, squinting at the grainy black and white image. The figure was wearing the Santa costume, the full red suit, black boots, the white beard. He was sitting perfectly still, hands on the armrests, facing straight ahead toward the camera. My first thought was that one of the daytime Santas had fallen asleep and somehow gotten locked in. It had happened before with mall employees, someone taking a break in a stockroom, dozing off, and waking up after closing. But I'd walked past Santa's workshop 20 minutes ago during my perimeter check. The throne had been empty. I was sure of it. I grabbed my flashlight and radio, clipping both to my belt, and headed out of the security office. The walk from the north entrance to the center court was maybe 300 feet, past the ghost of a Gap store and a vacant space that used to be a Borders. My footsteps echoed on the tile floor, that distinctive squeak of rubber soles that made it impossible to move quietly. As I walked, I kept trying to reason through it. Maybe I'd missed him during my first check. Maybe I'd been distracted, going through the motions without really paying attention. It was late, I was tired, it was possible. But I'd looked directly at that throne. I'd paused for a few seconds, thinking how sad the whole display looked with its peeling fake snow and broken candy cane lights. The throne had been empty. I reached the center court, my flashlight beam cutting through the half-darkness. The fountain was to my left, surrounded by fake poinsettias that had been there since Thanksgiving. The Christmas tree loomed ahead, decorated with oversized ornaments that were chipped and faded. And beyond that, Santa's workshop. The throne was empty. I walked closer, my flashlight sweeping across the display. The red velvet cushion on the throne showed no indentation, no sign anyone had been sitting there. The Santa costume, the official one, was locked in the mall office where it was kept between shifts. None of the daytime Santas were allowed to take the costume home. I pulled out my radio and switched to the channel that connected me to the overnight maintenance guy. "Hey Carlos, you anywhere near the center court?" Static crackled. Then negative. "I'm in the basement checking the boiler." "Why? Thought I saw someone on the cameras." "Probably just a glitch. Those cameras are older than my car, man." I wouldn't trust him for shit. He was right. The security system was ancient, prone to artifacts and dead pixels. I was probably seeing things, my brain filling in shapes where there were only shadows. I returned to the security office, checking my watch. 12:47 a.m. The night was barely started. I sat down at my desk and looked at camera 3. The figure was back in the throne. My stomach dropped. I was looking at the screen, seeing this figure in full Santa costume, and I just walked away from that exact spot. Less than 2 minutes had passed. Even if someone had sprinted across the mall the moment I left, they couldn't have gotten into the costume, a costume that was locked in an office, and positioned themselves on the throne in that time. I grabbed my radio again. "Carlos, I need you to come to the security office." "Now what's going on? Just can you come up here? I need a second pair of eyes on something." It took him 8 minutes to make it from the basement. I spent those 8 minutes staring at the monitor, watching that motionless figure on the throne. It didn't move, didn't shift position, just sat there, hands on the armrests facing the camera. When Carlos arrived, he smelled like cigarettes and looked annoyed at being pulled away from whatever he'd been doing. "What's the emergency?" I pointed at the screen. "You see that?" He leaned in, squinting. His expression changed. "Is that Santa? Tell me I'm not crazy." "You see someone sitting there, right?" "Yeah, man." "I see it." He straightened up, looking at me. "So go check it out." I already did. Twice. When I walk up there in person, the throne is empty. But on camera, there's someone sitting there. Carlos studied the screen for a long moment. Then he grabbed my flashlight from the desk. "Come on. We'll both go." We walked together this time, Carlos leading the way with his keyring jangling on his belt. Neither of us spoke during the walk, the Christmas music loop filling the silence with a tinny version of The Little Drummer Boy. We reached Santa's workshop. "Empty." "See," I said, my voice coming out higher than I intended. "Nothing." Carlos walked around the display, checking behind the wooden cutouts of elves and reindeer. "Could be someone messing with you. Some teenager who knows how to loop footage or something. The system's too old for that." "It's analog, not digital," he shrugged. "Then it's a glitch, like I said before. Cameras picking up some old image, overlaying it on the live feed." It was a rational explanation. It made sense. But it didn't explain the feeling in my chest, that tightness that comes when every instinct is screaming that something is very wrong. We walked back to the security office together. Carlos stayed with me for maybe 10 more minutes, making small talk about his plans for Christmas, clearly trying to calm me down. Eventually, he said he needed to get back to his checklist, wished me luck, and headed back to the basement. I sat alone at my desk, the monitor array in front of me. Camera 3 showed the empty throne. I watched it for an hour, checking every few minutes, but the throne remained empty. Eventually, I convinced myself that Carlos was right. Just a camera glitch, my imagination filling in the rest because it was late and creepy, and my brain was primed to see scary things. At 2:15 a.m., I started my second perimeter check. I deliberately saved the center court for last, some superstitious part of me wanting to delay walking past Santa's workshop. I checked the south entrance doors, locked. The east entrance, locked. Made my way past the empty food court where the chairs were all stacked on tables, creating weird angular shadows. When I finally reached the center court, I stopped walking. The Santa costume, the full red suit, pants, boots, hat, beard, white gloves, was laid out on the throne. Not folded neatly. Not hung up, arranged, like someone invisible was wearing it. The suit filled out as if there was a body inside, the arms positioned on the armrests, the boots planted on the floor. The beard hung in front of where a face should be, but there was no one inside it. I approached slowly, my flashlight beam shaking because my hands were trembling. The costume was definitely the official one. I could see the tag on the inside of the collar, the slight coffee stain on the left sleeve that had been there for years. This costume was supposed to be locked in the mall office. I checked that office myself at the start of my shift. The door had been locked. I tried the handle specifically because part of my opening checklist was confirming all administrative spaces were secure. The suit sat there, impossibly full, impossibly positioned. I reached out with one hand, my fingers inches from the red fabric, when the PA system crackled to life. Music started playing, but not the usual instrumental loop. This was different. A voice singing "Santa Claus is Coming to Town." A man's voice, deep and jovial, but with something off about it. Like the recording was damaged, the audio stretching and warping in places. He sees you when you're sleeping, he knows when you're awake. The voice echoed through the empty mall, bouncing off the tile floors and the high ceiling. I spun around looking for the source, but of course there was none. The PA system was centralized, controlled from the mall office. The mall office where the Santa costume should have been. He knows if you've been bad or good, my radio crackled. Carlos's voice tight with fear. What the hell is that? Are you playing something? No. I didn't touch anything. Where's it coming from? The singing stopped mid-verse. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the fountain had shut off. Even the HVAC system. Just perfect, horrible silence. Then from directly behind me, a voice whispered, "So be good for goodness sake." I ran. There's no shame in admitting it. Every horror movie, every true crime documentary, every instinct I had was screaming at me to get out, and for once in my life I listened. I ran from the center court, my flashlight beam bouncing wildly, my radio falling from my belt and clattering behind me. I didn't look back. I didn't stop to investigate or document, or any of the things security guards are supposed to do. I just ran for the north entrance, my breath coming in gasps, my heart slamming against my ribs. Behind me I heard footsteps, heavy boots on tile, running, keeping pace with me. The squeak of rubber soles, but deeper somehow, heavier. I pushed through the door to the security office, slammed it shut and locked it. My hands were shaking so badly, it took 3 tries to turn the deadbolt. The office had one small window that looked out into the mall corridor, the glass reinforced with wire mesh. I pressed my back against the far wall, staring at that window. The footsteps outside had stopped. I waited, counting my breaths, trying to get my heart rate under control. 1 minute. 2 minutes. Nothing. I was about to reach for the desk phone to call 911 or Carlos or anyone when I heard it. Tap, tap, tap. On the window. Something was knocking on the glass. I forced myself to look. The Santa costume was standing outside the door. Standing upright, filled out as if worn by a person, but I could see through the beard to the wire mesh glass beyond. There was nothing inside the costume. It was empty but standing, one white gloved hand raised, knuckles against the window. Tap, tap, tap. The beard moved. Like a mouth behind it was forming words. "Let me in," a voice said, muffled by the glass in the fabric. That same deep, jovial voice from the PA system. "I know you've been good this year. Don't you want your present?" My legs finally gave out and I slid down the wall, sitting hard on the floor. I closed my eyes, pressing my palms against my face, trying to convince myself this was a nightmare, that I'd fallen asleep at my desk, and this was just exhaustion and stress manifesting in my dreams. The tapping continued. Patient, methodical. I see you when you're sleeping, the voice sang softly. I know when you're awake. I don't know how long I sat there. It could have been minutes. It could have been hours. Eventually, I opened my eyes. The window was empty. The costume was gone. When my shift ended at 7 a.m., I unlocked the office door with my pepper spray in one hand and my flashlight in the other. The mall was silent. The morning light was starting to filter through the skylights, turning everything gray and ordinary. I walked to the center court, forcing myself to look. The Santa costume was back on the throne. Neatly arranged this time, folded properly with the hat placed on top and the boots lined up in front. Like someone had carefully put everything away at the end of a shift. I checked the mall office. The door was still locked. I opened it with my master key. The Santa costume was hanging on its rack inside, exactly where it was supposed to be. The same costume. The same coffee stain on the left sleeve. The same tag on the collar. I walked back to the center court. The costume on the throne was still there. 2 identical Santa costumes. One that should exist and one that shouldn't. I left my security badge on my desk, wrote a 2-sentence resignation letter, and walked out through the north entrance at 7:43 a.m. I didn't wait for my replacement to arrive. I didn't file a report. I just left. Carlos quit 3 days later. He won't talk about what happened that night, but when I ran into him at a gas station 6 months later, he looked at me and said, "You saw it too, didn't you?" I just nodded. Riverside Mall closed for good in March 2018. They cited declining revenue and increased online shopping competition. During the liquidation sale, everything was auctioned off. The fountain, the Christmas decorations, the Santa throne. I don't know who bought that throne. I don't want to know. But every Christmas, I think about it. Wonder if whoever bought it brought it home. Wonder if they've noticed anything strange on December 23rd, when the clock strikes midnight. Wonder if they've heard singing coming from an empty room. Santa Claus is coming to town. I still work security, but only day shifts now. Only in buildings, with lots of windows and natural light. And I make sure I'm never, ever alone in a building during Christmas season. Because I learned something that night at Riverside Mall. Some mall Santas never finish their last shift. They just keep coming back, year after year, waiting for someone to notice them.
To keep watching videos like this, you need to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell. Please leave a comment telling me where you're watching this video from. Now, back to the shadows.
I thought I was just doing my job like any other night. This was December 20th, 2022, at the shipping facility where I worked in Memphis, Tennessee. What happened there made me understand that some packages should never be delivered. I was 31 years old, working the overnight sorting shift at a regional distribution center for one of the big shipping companies. I won't say which one. I signed an NDA when I was hired, but if you've ever ordered anything online during the holidays, there's a good chance it passed through our facility. The warehouse was massive, maybe 200,000 square feet, with conveyor belts running in every direction like metal rivers. During Christmas season, we processed about 50,000 packages per night. My job was quality control on line 7, which meant I stood at a checkpoint and pulled any packages that looked damaged or had illegible labels. It was mind-numbing work. 10-hour shifts, 4 nights a week, wearing earplugs because the machinery was so loud you couldn't think without them. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed constantly, and the air always smelled like cardboard dust and diesel from the loading dock. That night started normally. I clocked in at 11 p.m., grabbed my scanner and label printer from the equipment cage, and took my position at my checkpoint on line 7. The belt started moving at 11:15, and the packages began their endless procession past my station. Most of it was exactly what you'd expect: Amazon boxes, clothing shipments, the occasional oversized item that barely fit on the belt. During my first 3 hours, I pulled maybe 15 packages for relabeling. Nothing unusual. Then at 2:34 a.m., I remember the exact time because I just checked my watch, counting down the hours until my break. A package came down the belt that made me stop. It was a Christmas present, gift wrapped in candy cane striped paper with a big red bow on top. No shipping box, no protective packaging. Just the wrapped gift itself, about the size of a shoebox, with a shipping label stuck directly to the wrapping paper. That alone wasn't unusual. People did that sometimes, too cheap or lazy to put their wrapped gifts in a shipping box. It always annoyed me because the wrapping paper would get torn up during transit, arriving at its destination looking like it had been through a war. What made me stop was the label. The from address was the facility's own address. Our warehouse here in Memphis. The to address was also our facility address. Same building, same zip code, same street address. Someone had sent a package to the warehouse from the warehouse. I pulled the package off the belt and set it on my sorting table, scanning the label with my handheld device. The tracking number came up as valid. It had been processed into the system, logged and confirmed, with a scan timestamp from 11:47 p.m. that night. But that was impossible. No one could drop off a package at this facility after hours. The customer service counter closed at 6 p.m., and after that, the only way in was through the employee entrance with a badge. And why would someone mail something to the same building they were already in? I turned the package over in my hands. The wrapping paper was nice, professional quality, the kind you'd buy from an actual store rather than the cheap stuff from the dollar section. The bow was real ribbon, tied in a perfect loop. Through the paper, I could feel that whatever was inside had some weight to it. Not heavy, but substantial. There was a gift tag attached to the ribbon. The kind you get for free at stores during Christmas, with a snowman design and spaces for to and from. It read, "To night shift." From a friend. The rational part of my brain immediately started working through explanations. Maybe it was from management, some kind of Christmas bonus or thank you gift. Maybe someone in HR had sent it through the system as a joke, trying to see if anyone would notice. But we didn't get Christmas bonuses. And nobody in management cared enough about overnight workers to send us gifts. I was supposed to follow protocol. Any package with addressing errors went into the problem bin for management to handle during day shift. But something about this made me hesitate. The longer I held it, the stranger it felt. Not physically strange. It didn't vibrate or make sounds or any of the horror movie cliches. It just felt wrong, like how you can sometimes tell when someone is staring at you even though you can't see them. I put it in the problem bin and went back to work. For the next hour, everything was normal. Boxes streamed past, I pulled the damaged ones, time crawled forward. My back ached from standing. My mind wandered to what I'd eat when I got home, whether I should stop at the 24-hour diner or just crash into bed. At 3:47 a.m., another gift wrap package came down the belt. Same candy cane wrapping paper. Same red bow. Same impossible shipping label, from our facility to our facility. but this one had a different gift tag. To line 7. From a friend. My hands were shaking slightly as I pulled the second package off the belt. Line 7 was my line. My station. This one was addressed to me, or at least to where I was standing. Around me, the warehouse continued its mechanical routine. Conveyor belts hummed. Packages moved in their endless loop. A forklift beeped somewhere in the distance. None of my coworkers seemed to notice anything wrong. But then again, everyone on night shift wore earplugs and kept their heads down, lost in their own private boredom. I looked up at the security cameras. There were dozens of them throughout the warehouse, black domes on the ceiling that supposedly fed to a monitoring station in the office. I'd always assumed someone was watching, but I'd worked here for 3 years and never once seen security respond to anything. For all I knew, the cameras weren't even real. I examined the second package more carefully. Same weight as the first. Same size. Through the wrapping paper, I could feel hard edges, something rectangular and solid inside. What if this was a bomb? The thought hit me like cold water. What if someone was targeting the facility, sending explosives through our own system? It sounded paranoid, but there'd been stories in the news about package bombs, about disgruntled employees or domestic terrorists using shipping companies as weapons. But if it was a bomb, it was a very polite one. Gift wrapped with a bow. Addressed to night shift and to line 7 like invitations to a party. I carried both packages to the supervisor's station, a raised platform overlooking the sorting floor where Jorge, our night supervisor, sat with his laptop and coffee. Jorge was 45, perpetually exhausted, and had perfected the art of looking busy while doing nothing. "Hey Jorge, I need you to look at something." He glanced up with the expression of someone who really didn't want to deal with anything. "What's up?" I set both packages on his desk. "These came down line 7. Check out the labels." He looked at them, his expression unchanging. "Okay, they're addressed from here to here." "Same building," Jorge shrugged. Probably someone in receiving screwed up. Stuck the wrong labels on some Christmas gifts for the office, but who sent them? And why are they going through the sort system? I don't know, man. Put them in the problem bin. Day shift will figure it out. He was already looking back at his laptop, dismissing me. There might be more coming, then put those in the problem bin too. It's not complicated. I returned to my station, the 2 gift-wrap packages sitting in my problem bin like small red and white landmines. Every time I glanced at them, I felt that same crawling sensation on the back of my neck. The feeling of being watched. At 4:23 a.m., a third package arrived. This one was different. Same wrapping paper. Same bow. But when I picked it up, I could hear something inside. A faint rattling, like multiple small objects shifting around. The gift tag read, "To you." From a friend, not to night shift or to line 7, to you. My mouth went dry. I looked around the warehouse floor, scanning the faces of my coworkers. Maybe 40 people total on the overnight shift, spread across an enormous facility. Most of them were just silhouettes in the distance, anonymous figures in safety vests and hard hats. Could one of them be doing this? Setting me up for some elaborate prank? But to do that, they'd need access to the label printing system. They'd need to know how to input tracking numbers and process packages into our database. That wasn't common knowledge. It required training and system access that most floor workers didn't have. I shook the package gently near my ear. The rattling continued, like dice in a cup. Or teeth. Or small bones. "Stop it," I told myself. "You're being ridiculous. It's probably just a box of candy or ornaments, or something completely innocent." But if it was innocent, why did my hands not want to hold it? Why did every instinct scream at me to put it down, to get away from it? I added the third package to my problem bin, now containing 3 gift-wrapped mysteries. The shift was half over. Only 5 more hours until I could leave, go home, forget this happened. Another package appeared on the belt at 4:58 a.m. Then another at 5:34 a.m. Then 3 more in the next hour, coming faster now, like whoever was sending them was getting excited. By 6:45 a.m., there were 11 gift-wrapped packages in my problem bin. All identical except for the gift tags, which were getting more specific. 2, the one at line 7, 2, the one who noticed, 2, the one who's watching, 2, the one who should open them. I called Jorge over again. This time, I didn't wait for him to dismiss me. I grabbed his arm and pulled him down to my station, pointing at the problem bin overflowing with candy cane-wrapped packages. You need to call someone. This isn't normal. Jorge stared at the collection of gifts, and for the first time that night, I saw concern flicker across his face. What the hell? Where are these all coming from? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to tell you. They keep coming down the belt and they're all addressed to me. He picked up one of the packages, examining the label. The tracking numbers are real. They're in the system. He pulled out his phone, scanning one of the labels with the company app. His face went pale. This says it was dropped off at this facility's customer counter at 6:23 p.m. yesterday. But I can check the security logs. No one dropped anything off yesterday after 5. So where are they coming from? Jorge didn't answer. He was scrolling through his phone, checking something. The other tracking numbers, they're all from yesterday evening. Logged between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. 11 different packages, all dropped off after the counter was closed. We stared at each other. We need to open one, Jorge said finally. Are you insane? What if they're dangerous? Then we need to evacuate the building and call the police. But I'm not doing that until I know what we're dealing with. He picked up the nearest package, the one tagged to you, and started working at the ribbon. Wait, shouldn't we? He ripped the wrapping paper. Inside was a plain cardboard box, the kind you'd get at a craft store. Jorge opened the lid carefully, and we both leaned in to look. The box was filled with Polaroid photographs. Jorge picked up the top one. It showed the front of our warehouse, taken from the parking lot. Nothing strange about it, just a normal exterior shot during daylight. The next photo showed the employee entrance. The next showed the break room. The next showed line 7. My workstation, taken from an angle that suggested someone had been standing on the floor, maybe 20 feet away, pointing a camera at my sorting table. When were these taken? Jorge whispered. The next photo answered his question. It showed me, standing at my station, wearing the same safety vest I had on right now, pulling a package off the belt. The timestamp in the corner of the Polaroid read, 12/20/22 to 17 a.m. tonight. Less than 5 hours ago. Someone had been in the warehouse tonight, taking pictures of me, and I hadn't noticed. Jorge dropped the photo like it had burned him. We need to call the police. Right now, but I was already looking at the next photo in the stack. It showed me again. Same station. But in this one, I was looking directly at the camera. My face was caught in an expression I didn't remember making, mouth slightly open, eyes wide, like I just noticed something surprising. I didn't remember this moment. I didn't remember seeing anyone with a camera. The next photo showed me holding the first gift-wrap package, the one that had arrived at 2:34 a.m. The next showed me walking to Jorge's station with the packages. The next showed me back at line 7, looking at the problem bin. Someone had been following me all night, documenting my every move, and I'd never seen them. Jorge was already on his phone, calling 911. I could hear him explaining the situation to the dispatcher, his voice tight with fear. I picked up another gift wrap package from the bin. The one tagged too, the one who should open them. My hands moved on autopilot, tearing the paper. Another box of Polaroids. But these were different. The first photo showed my car in the parking lot. My actual car, with my license plate visible. The next showed my apartment building in Midtown. The next showed my front door. Unit 3C. My home. The next showed the inside of my apartment. My living room, taken from the doorway. My couch, my TV, my coffee table with a stack of unread mail. Jorge, I said, my voice coming out strangled. Jorge, stop. Look at this. He turned, the phone still pressed to his ear, and saw the photos I was holding. The next Polaroid showed my bedroom. My bed, unmade from when I'd left for work. My dresser with the photo of my parents on top. The next showed me sleeping. In my bed. In my apartment. Taken from the foot of the bed, looking down at me. The timestamp read, 12/19/22, 3:47 p.m. Yesterday afternoon when I'd been home sleeping before my shift. Someone had been inside my apartment. Standing in my bedroom. Watching me sleep. Taking pictures. Police are on their way, Jorge said, but his voice sounded far away, like he was speaking from the end of a tunnel. They said not to touch anything else. They said the lights went out. All of them. Every fluorescent tube in the warehouse, every work light, every emergency exit sign. Complete darkness, the kind that's so absolute you can't even see your hand in front of your face. The conveyor belts shut down. The humming stopped. The mechanical heartbeat of the facility fell silent. In that silence, I heard footsteps. Not boots on concrete. Something softer. Closer. Someone was on the warehouse floor with us. Moving in the darkness. Jorge, I whispered. I'm here. Stay still. Don't move, the footsteps continued. Slow, methodical, moving between the conveyor belts. I could track them by sound, each step echoing slightly in the vast space. They were getting closer to line 7. My phone. I needed my phone for the flashlight. I reached for my pocket as quietly as possible, my fingers closing around the device. Before I could pull it out, the lights came back on. Everything powered up at once, the fluorescents, the conveyor belts, the machinery. The warehouse roared back to life, so sudden and loud it was disorienting. I spun around, looking for whoever had been walking in the darkness. The floor was empty. Just the usual night shift workers at their stations, all of them looking around in confusion, probably wondering what had caused the power failure. But on the conveyor belt of line 7, a new package was moving toward my station. Gift wrapped in candy cane paper. Red bow on top. This one was different. Bigger. About the size of a hat box. It reached my station and bumped against the barrier, waiting for me to grab it. The gift tag was written in different handwriting than the others. Messier, more hurried. To my favorite night shift worker. It's time to open your present. Don't touch it, Jorge said. He was beside me now, his face pale. Don't touch any of them. We wait for the police, but I was already reaching for it. Some compulsion I couldn't explain, like a rope tied around my chest, pulling me forward. My hands closed around the package. It was heavier than the others. Much heavier. I tore off the wrapping paper. Inside was a cardboard box, sealed with packing tape. I dug my fingernail under the edge of the tape and pulled. The box opened. Inside, carefully nestled in tissue paper, was a name tag, the kind employees wore on lanyards at the warehouse. It had the company logo at the top and a name printed in the center. But it wasn't my name. It read, Marcus Chen, Night Supervisor, Line 7. I didn't recognize the name. We didn't have a Marcus Chen working here. Jorge, do you know anyone named Marcus Chen? Jorge had gone completely still beside me. When I looked at him, his face had drained of all color. Marcus Chen worked here, he said quietly. 6 years ago. He was night supervisor before me. What happened to him? He disappeared. December 21st, 2016. Came to work for his shift and never left the building. Police searched the whole warehouse. Never found any trace of him. The conveyor belt started moving again, but faster now, the packages rushing past in a blur. And every single package on the belt was gift-wrapped in candy cane paper. Dozens of them. Hundreds. All identical, all with red bows, all flowing past my station in an endless stream. We need to leave, Jorge said, his voice shaking. Right now. We need to leave right now. But the packages were already piling up at my station, bumping against each other, starting to overflow onto the floor. The belt kept moving, kept sending more faster and faster. I grabbed one at random and tore it open. More Polaroids. But these were old, the colors faded. They showed a man I didn't recognize, Asian, maybe 40 years old, wearing a supervisor's vest, standing at what looked like line 7. Smiling at the camera. The next photo showed the same man looking confused. The next showed him looking scared. The next showed him reaching for something off camera, his mouth open in a scream I couldn't hear. The next photo was just darkness. And in that darkness, barely visible, 2 pale circles that might have been eyes. The police arrived 18 minutes later. By then, the conveyor belt had stopped again, and all the gift-wrapped packages had vanished. Every single one. The problem bin was empty. The belt was running normally, processing regular packages like nothing had happened. They searched the entire facility. Checked the security footage. Interviewed everyone on the night shift. The security cameras showed nothing unusual. No one entering the building who shouldn't have been there. No gift-wrapped packages on the belts. Just me and Jorge, apparently having a breakdown over some standard shipping containers. The photos were gone too. The boxes I'd opened, the Polaroids of my apartment, the picture of Marcus Chen, all of it had vanished. Jorge backed up my story, but even he seemed uncertain now, like he was questioning his own memory. The other workers said they'd seen nothing strange. I quit the next morning. Jorge quit 3 days later. The company settled with me quietly, a severance package with an NDA attached. They made it very clear that if I talked publicly about what happened, there would be legal consequences. I work at a grocery store now. Day shift only, with lots of windows and cameras and customers. I won't go near shipping facilities. Won't order anything online that has to be delivered. I buy everything in person now. But every December, starting around the 20th, I find things. A Polaroid slipped under my door while I'm at work. A gift-wrapped box on my doorstep with no return address. A package delivered to my address with the sender listed as my own name. I never opened them. I burned them immediately in the parking lot behind my building, watching until there's nothing left but ash. Because I learned something that night at the distribution center. Some packages aren't meant to be delivered to an address. They're meant to deliver something to you. And once you've been selected as a recipient, they never stop coming. Every year at Christmas, a gift from a friend who wants you to join him on the night shift. Forever.
We made it out of this one, but the darkness runs deep. If you think you can handle it, check out the other cases on the channel. Don't risk losing the signal. Like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. The next investigation is starting now.